so glad you could come along.
I put a spell on you.
Grid is live. Initiate light cycle battle.
Welcome, foolish mortals.
For a safe trip, remain seated, keeping your hands, arms, feet, and legs inside the cabin. Be sure to watch your children, and no smoking, please.
Hey guys, welcome back to Pirates and Princesses. This is Tom. I am here with Cam.
Hello.
Together we are Cam and Tom.
That's
See,
right.
I always put her first. So we're going to talk about Disney news. We're going to talk about Disney. Man, things are getting really ugly with the board battle.
Yes.
The proxy war, the upcoming proxy war. Both sides are kind of taking shots at each other, but Disney looks really bad in this.
I don't know. I mean, yeah, both sides have said some stuff, but the one side has said like mostly nice things, and then the other side came out with like almost like a political-esque, you know, when you're like, my don't vote for them, they're a poopy pants loser. It's like
They're
that.
poopy pants losers.
It's like, you know, that voiceover, you know, so and so likes to poop their pants, and you shouldn't vote for them. And it's like that. And I was so shocked. I just couldn't believe that they went there.
It's not even fall yet, right? Because the elections aren't until fall. And
no, but this is the election for Disney, and now it's getting desperate and ugly.
We'll talk about that. We'll talk about some comings and goings at Disney and some other desperation, I guess, with Sony. And we've got a lot of news. This week. There's a lot of things going on, but I thought we'd lead with the board battle, because that is hands down the biggest Disney news out there. Mm-hmm. So if you guys haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe to this podcast wherever you found it, whether it's on iTunes or Amazon or Spotify or some other podcast app. We're all over the place, guys. So definitely give us a sub, help us grow. We have to rebuild. We used to actually have a whole lot of people subscribing. It's been a while. I guess when you put a podcast out like once every 2 years,
yeah,
it doesn't really help your numbers any.
Doesn't help, no.
All right, so walk me through it. What's going on with Disney?
Okay. So if you aren't aware, there is a proxy battle at the Walt Disney Company for board seats. It's not just one activist investor group. There are two looking for seats. One is Trian Group, which is Nelson Peltz and the former CFO of Disney, Jay Rasulo. Mm-hmm. And the other one is the Blackwell's Capital. And they were 3 seats, and you don't hear much about them. There actually is a third group that was Value Act, but they turned around and just made a deal with the board, and they're working with the board now. So Disney's gotten to a place that not 1, not 2, but 3 investor groups felt they needed to step in.
Yeah, so Blackwell's, I think the reason you don't hear much about them is their ideas are dumb. They're really, really dumb.
Yeah,
they want to split Disney up into 3 companies or something. And It's like, no, that's stupid. Trian, of course, that's Nelson Peltz and Jay Rasulo, former CFO, and their ideas are actually pretty solid.
Right. So they put out a 130-page white paper, which you read.
Yes.
Do you want to talk about that for a minute before I talk about the town hall?
Yeah, we'll talk about that. And then I think we're going to need a palate cleanser after this segment here. We'll maybe talk about something a little more fun. But so this 130-page white paper, they basically said that Disney has lost its way. They outline how Disney has lost its way. They talk about the creative flywheel a lot. The creative flywheel being the heart of Disney. That Disney has always been the most creative company out there. They were always coming up with new ideas and entertainment for everybody. And they said that is fundamentally broken. That
you mean like Toy Story 5 and Frozen 3 and Moana 2 and
right?
Live action adaptations of every animated movie ever isn't the right way to do things?
Yeah, they basically said that, Disney is no longer innovating. They said that Disney is losing to literally every one of its competitors in the theme parks, in animation, and in live action movies. And they said that, especially with Jay Rasulo, they want to go back to focusing on Disney being a creative company first, the kind of company that Walt would be proud of, and then let everything else kind of come out of those creative ideas. And they said that worked well for decades. And then for some reason, they decided, hey, just IP and sequels. That's the way to go.
After that paper, then Value Act Capital, who has a deal with the Disney board to be like advisors or work with them, which Blackwell Blackwell Group is kind of mad about because they said that they get unfair information early. They get access to things early, which I do agree they have a point there. They put out a rebuttal, which was a short one, and it was kind of pointless. Walt Disney Company didn't say anything. They just supported this rebuttal. And then Nelson Peltz and Jay Rasulo did a town hall presentation where they answered shareholder questions. And throughout the video, I want to make sure I make it clear. You can go out if you go to restorethemagic.com. It's there. But I actually have some of the things they said. And they talked about often how they grew, how, they used to take their kids there. Rasulo's from there, 30 years at the Walt Disney Company. They were talking about basically the things you mentioned for the white paper and what they were saying there and explaining why they were picking the seats they were picking and things like that. I want to make it clear. They made it very clear throughout the video that they do not want Bob Iger to be fired. They do not want to remove him. I think they want a succession plan, but they have no intention of taking him off.
Yeah, I think what gets me about this is like, why is Bob so threatened? You've got somebody that you used to work with, and they actually, my understanding is they had Rasulo and Iger actually had a pretty good working relationship.
That's what I was going to say too. They were talking, and I want to point out that they were talking about the board, and they called them like intelligent men and women. They said they're smart men and women. Rasulo said he doesn't know the board members. He has nothing against any of them. And he talked about Bob Iger in a positive way. They said nothing negative about the members or Bob Iger at all. I want to make sure I make that clear. That's going to come up in a minute. I also want to talk about the fact that they pointed out that one of the problems Disney's having is that even though they made, more money than their streaming competitors, like Netflix did over $30 billion in revenue, and Disney did $55 billion in revenue. However, Netflix has a 22% margin and Disney only has a 7% margin. And that's a big problem,
Yeah. So they bragged about how much they were spending on streaming content. And I think that's a big part of it. Yeah, but you can also see the kind of the decline as they started out with The Mandalorian and WandaVision, and then like show after show, everything started looking cheaper and cheaper and cheaper.
Well, they said they were going to do like theatrical budgets, and they did, but then the VFX people couldn't keep up with it, and it just like there was too much, and people couldn't do their jobs well enough to make it look good every time. They also talk about the fact that, at the parks, we've got a lot of problems. The parks, which we're going to mention later, involving, how confusing it is, involving how expensive it is, and the upkeep on attractions while Epic Universe is coming for their lunch. And, Disney is kind of just saying they're going to do stuff, but they aren't giving real examples of things other than like reskins, rethemes, and stuff like that. So we're going to talk about that stuff a little later in the video, but that was brought up in this town hall meeting. So after they did their meeting, and again, they were very respectful in how they worded things.
Yeah, they were.
So Disney comes today with something that shock is the only thing I can explain it as. I was so shocked that they went this way. And it kind of smacks of desperation. And I'm very, very surprised that the Walt Disney Company, who are supposed to be the Disney difference and they stand for all this stuff, would put out a video that literally sounds like the political video, mudslinging videos that you see on TV.
They even got the voice.
They did. I'll play a little bit of it here.
Nelson Peltz is a poopy, sticky poopy pants.
I know. And a lot of things they bring up, they're disruptive and things like that. And I'm like, but a lot of things Disney's done late has been disruptive to themselves. And they're talking about the stocks and how, the stocks went down in these companies. And I'm like, meanwhile, Iger sold a bunch of his Disney stock and invested it in Funko.
Yeah, I know. Right?
And he's an advisor to the board. And after he did that, their stock went from like $26 a share to like $6. I'm like, dude, those who live in glass houses. But here, I'll play the beginning for you because I was really surprised that they would go there with this because it's a lot.
Yeah, this is not magical.
No. I'm just going to play just a little bit
What's
of it.
What's the harm of letting activist investor Nelson Peltz or Jay Rasulo have a seat on Disney's board? The answer is simple. If they succeed, Disney could suffer the same fate as other great companies that Peltz has previously infiltrated, such as GE and DuPont.
Here, I want to skip ahead where they start like throwing shade at Rasulo directly.
Yeah, I mean that actually floored me because we've talked about this before. think it's been a while, but we talked about how Disney views its employees, and they always talk about them as being cast members, family members, people part of the family. Even if you leave, you're still part of the family. And they just dismiss him so coldly.
Here, I'm going to play it. This is Jay Rasulo, who was there for 30 years.
30 years.
And then there's Jay Rasulo, a former Disney employee who was passed over for a promotion nearly a decade ago. He hasn't been employed since leaving Disney, and the last time he joined the board of a media company, the stock tanked. What's more,
he has been unemployed because he's older and he probably is semi-retired.
Yeah.
Much like Bob Iger needs to do. And they go on and on. You can go out to votedisney.com to see the entire video. But I was just like so floored that Disney behaved that way. Like, we already had them bringing out the grandkids and putting out letters. And it was funny because Abigail Disney was one of them when she was normally calling, Uncle Walt a fascist and then talking about Bob Iger and talking about all kinds of crap about him. But now they're lowering themselves to these political-esque hit piece ads. And then it looks so terrible for them, especially if you see the town hall that Peltz and Rasulo did, and they basically were just like, hey, there's smart people on the board. And then I think Rasulo said he'd love to work with Iger again. They never had a crossword between them. And then this is what Disney puts out.
Yeah, I
was shocked.
So weird. But the thing is that, this shouldn't shock people that have been paying attention. We talked about it before.
Well, I've been paying attention. I still can't believe they actually, behind the scenes, yes, publicly posted this. I'm very surprised.
Well, they went after WDW News Today a couple of years ago.
And this is like the Disney company on their Disney company.
Because I think the numbers are coming in. I think they're getting the votes. I think they're looking at it. They're like, oh, my God, this isn't good, guys. This is not good.
So my next thing is, and they said, well, we listen to anybody who has ideas, but you don't.
No,
and the next thing I have to wonder, as people who want Disney to be Disney again and like Disney and still, would visit Disney and buy Disney things, watch Disney movies if they were good, et cetera, et cetera. I'm just like, so if I question anything, are you going to do hit pieces on fans because they don't agree with your choices? It's very confusing. I know when the Star Wars, The Last Jedi came out, the people behind the movies were out there doing hit pieces on the fans, but that wasn't Disney directly.
Yeah, I don't know, guys. I mean, this is actually going to do more damage, I think, for them. The fact that it does come across like a political ad, and they're like, oh, we're not political. Disney's not political. We're the good ones. We got Ludwig von Drake telling everybody how great we are.
Everything they're accusing Peltz and company of doing, they just did. And I'm like, you're supposed to be better than what you're claiming that you're against.
Well, people were pointing out that DuPont and GE are actually doing pretty okay right now. So Peltz could have been completely bad. Like, Disney's laying people off and they're actually hiring.
Funko's still in the gutter.
Yeah.
I could not believe it that was their response. I mean, especially if you compare the two, which again, if you would like to compare the two, if you go to votedisney.com, you can see the Disney response. If you go to restorethemagic.com, you can see the Nelson Peltz, Jay Rasulo video. So you can go check those out for yourselves. But I was really, really surprised by the whole thing.
I think this is going to be kind of a mask off moment for a lot of people. And they're going to realize that, hey, guys, I hate to break it to you, but Disney is a company. They're a corporation. Oh, my God.
I mean, I knew that.
Imagine that,
We've been behind the scenes in a lot of things, and we know how things go. But, okay, even with you going to these different events and kind of seeing how it goes.
Yes.
Would you ever have imagined that they, on their company corporate thing about this, that they would post something like this?
No. They go out of their way, or that historically they've gone out of their way to, even if they...
To be above it.
Yeah, to be above this. Even if they, feel this way behind the scenes. And in the case of Jay Rasulo, like, this is a guy who was brought up in Disney culture. He was part of the family. He was pretty high-ranking Mickey Mouse Club member, right? A Mouseketeer. And they're still just throwing him to the wolves. And I mean, this tells me that they're panicked. I mean, Disney must be panicked, and they're scared to death. And it's like, what are you afraid of? This guy's going to come in. Nelson Peltz is going to come in, and he's going to say, well, do some stuff that makes more money. Hey, Jay, what do you think would make more money? And he'd probably be like, well, when I was here with Michael Eisner, we used to actually make new things, except for those cheap quills. Don't talk about
one thing that was interesting was that when they were talking about it to Peltz and Rasulo kept going on about Walt Disney and things that Walt Disney said, and what Walt Disney wasn't about the sequels and the different things that Disney did that they would base their decisions on when he was there. And then you hear Iger talk, and that's not the same thing. They keep flashing things like, we're Disney, trust us, but they're showing like Yoda they acquired, or they're showing Planet of the Apes, or Deadpool, or just different things that they have acquired under his, because he's about himself and his legacy with Disney.
Yeah.
Rasulo's talking about Walt Disney's legacy with Disney.
That is the difference that I've seen is the people that predate, who've been with Disney that predate Bob Iger, they respect the legacy that Walt built. They have a huge, tremendous amount of respect for Walt Disney. A lot of these newer people do not. To them, it's like the Disney Co. and we are Marvel and Star Wars and all this crap that Bob Iger
acquired, but doesn't know how to manage.
Right. And I think I hate to say it. Oh, no, you know what? I don't hate to say it. In Bob Iger's mind, Bob Iger is Disney.
Yeah. He wrote books about himself, The Ride of a Lifetime. He admitted he screwed over George Lucas.
Yeah. Who would admit to that? You screwed over George Lucas.
Because he thought it was something to be proud of, I guess.
Yeah.
But, of the two, Jay Rasulo, I'd like to at least see Jay Rasulo on the board. But I feel bad for him because he's talking about, Iger in such a positive way. And then Iger thought that they put this video out and they talk about him like that. And it was like, wow. You wouldn't expect Disney, who's known for being family-oriented, polite, to behave the way that they're claiming other people are behaving. It just was a shock. I don't know how else to describe it as that. But couple things. One, you said about Musketeer. Funny story. People are searching for this because they didn't know this. Because the Oscars, which we're going to talk about in a minute, Ryan Gosling, who was Ken in the Barbie movie, performed at the Oscars. And people were searching it because they did not know that he was a Disney kid.
Yeah, so I remember him being on the new Mickey Mouse Club.
All new Mickey Mouse Club, yes.
The all new one, the one that from the 90s, I think.
It was 89 through 94, yes.
Yeah, like Britney Spears was on it.
Yes, he was in there the last 2 years with those. With Justin Timberlake, I guess, was one of his really good friends. Britney Spears, Christina Aguilera, Ryan Gosling were on the last 2 years of it. And yeah.
I remember them saying that he wasn't on it as much. He didn't get as much screen time as the other Musketeers because he wasn't a good actor.
He wasn't as talented. Yes. And so now he's performing at the Oscars.
I know, right?
But we're going to talk about the Oscars here, and we'll talk there next. We'll segue into that. So the Oscars were last night, and Disney did not win for Best Animated Feature, and Sony's Into the Spider-Verse did not win either.
Yeah. Well, they went up against Miyazaki. I mean,
you're going to be hard pressed to beat Miyazaki. I'm sorry. Basically, Disney didn't do that well. The only thing they won for was Poor Things. And then there's one other thing they won for, The Last Repair Shop. So they won, Emma Stone got Best Actress, Best Production Design, Best Costume Design, Best Makeup and Hairstyling. And then they won for The Last Repair Shop, got Best Documentary Short Film. And that's all Disney won.
Yeah, and that's like indie stuff. That's like, you know what I'm saying? That's like not mainline Disney.
No. And this is after they bragged about having 20-some, most nominations of anyone.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, so not only are they failing at the box office commercially, they're failing critically. And like normally, I mean, I have to admit, I did get kind of sick of like, oh, there's a new Toy Story. It by default is going to win the Academy Award. It shouldn't have beat
Klaus. I'm sorry.
Klaus was amazing, but it's Miyazaki, right? And Disney screwed that deal up too. They were the ones that were distributing.
That was through Lasseter, from my understanding. And then when they got rid of Lasseter, they basically that upended that deal.
Yep.
So, it is what it is. So there's that. I just wanted to tie it into Ryan Gosling because he performed. Other news. Oh, yes. So we have a shift at Disney again.
There's a lot of things going on at Disney.
Disney's claiming they're trying to shift. And I do think they're trying to pivot. To be fair, I think they're trying. I don't know how. It's a little bit like, why didn't you do this sooner? I don't know. But the president of Disney Imagineering, Barbara Bauza, is leaving. Now, she's only been at Walt Disney Imagineering for 4 years. She came in like June of 2020, right around the time they announced they were going to retheme Splash Mountain to Princess and the Frog.
Yeah, that's surely a coincidence. But a lot of stuff that since she's been there has been like, people are complaining it looks very much like a Hilton or something.
Yeah, like they did that Carousel coffee shop and the new Pop Century rooms.
I hate that.
They're
very so much.
They're
sterile.
not. Sterile. She comes, I think, from a more corporate background. So I don't know if she was the best fit for some of this stuff anyway. But go ahead.
Oh, no, I was going to say, was she the one that did the Fort Wilderness and she turned the cabins
wondered.
into the tiny houses
I
that
don't
looked
know.
stupid?
I think so, because she's in charge of all this stuff, so probably. So she was made president. She got there in June of 2020. She replaced Bob Weiss. Then she was made president in November 21 when she replaced him. And so she's only been in charge like just a couple years. And last year, everybody was excited last March when they announced Bruce Vaughan was coming back, because he had 30 years of Imagineering under his belt. He was returning, and he was going to be the chief creative officer working with her. And now he's going to replace her. So she put out a statement, and it's interesting. She's just talking about her past and when she came to Disney Imagineering. She was recruited by the Walt Disney Company to challenge the norm.
What does that mean?
I don't know. And bring broader global industry perspective and expertise.
No, just make it Disney. Like Disney the hell out of it. Just make it more Disney.
Well, that's just it. And she's talking about all the projects and experiences she worked on. But most of the projects that were in play that she's a part of were already in play before she came in. So I don't know what's up with that. But it is interesting that they said that they recruited her to change the norm, to challenge the norm, whatever that means. I mean, people go to Disney because they want the norm. So I'm not understanding what that means. But where she's going is very nebulous. She's talking about how she's leaving to create an even bigger impact for the world. We hear this a lot. I'm going to entrepreneurial endeavors, things like that, where it's very nebulous, makes me kind of wonder if she kind of got gone.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I'm thinking that her stuff wasn't very well received, and now they're trying to basically salvage Disney, and her stuff isn't very Disney. I mean, it's not. I mean, everything I've seen, if she was in charge of it, and I know there were a lot of complaints about the rooms, the reskins, and Fort Wilderness, the cabins.
The cabins are awful.
They're hipster cottages. I mean,
ironically, they were selling the old cabins for $45,000 on eBay.
Oh, we should have bought one from
the
backyard.
You had to live somewhere nearby Florida to get one. Like you had to live nearby. Like
I would have gotten a truck. I would have brought one up and parked it in the backyard.
I know. I didn't tell you because part of me was worried you actually would do it. So I don't want to spend $45,000 on a Disney house. But I used to stay in the cabins when I was a kid, so there's that. So yeah, they're replacing her, and they're bringing. Well, they already brought back Bruce Vaughan, but now Vaughn's going to be made president of WDI. I'm not sure what happened there, but I'm sure there's a story, and it doesn't sound like it went too well for her.
Yeah, so, I'm thinking a clash of ideology, probably.
I don't know. I just want to know what challenging the norm means. But when they're talking about, this is going to lead me into something else. So she mentioned her thing about the $60 billion investment. And that's something else Jay Rasulo mentioned. And he said, they're throwing around $60 billion, but over the course of 10 years, that's $6 billion for how many theme parks? Yeah. And he's like, people don't get excited about hearing $60 billion spent. They want to hear what they're going to be adding. Yeah. And we are hearing a lot of things being added, but it's just not at the domestic parks. Like Scott Gustin posted, Shanghai Disney Resort says a new attraction is in the preliminary planning stages and initial preparation work for construction. Recently started in an area adjacent to Zootopia Land, which just opened. They just got the brand new Zootopia Land. And it's going to be separately themed, not an expansion of Zootopia Land. So we haven't announced, but they're going to spend all this money. And it's going to Shanghai. Just got a new Zootopia Land.
Yeah, people don't care. Like, look, I'm not saying people, obviously people in Shanghai, people in China care about what's coming to Shanghai and Hong Kong and all that. But people here in the States, your diehard American Disney fans, they want to know what's coming to Disney World first and what's coming to Disneyland second.
Right. And the thing is, Disneyland, they're trying to get through the Anaheim. There's the expansion they're trying to get through. I guess they're voting on it this week, I want to say. So I'll know more about that next week. But that's going on there. But in Disney World, they used to be able to push their own things through at Reedy Creek. Well, now Reedy Creek isn't run by Disney. Now it's the Central Florida Tourism Oversight District. And they're all too busy fighting amongst themselves legally. I don't know, other than doing reskins and things, when they're going to get full approval for stuff, because now they have to go through the same processes other people have to go through. They can't just decide. Which is probably why we're seeing more stuff. But Shanghai is going in. There's another resort hotel going in. There's all this stuff coming up. We're spending $60 billion, but are you going to spend any of this over here? Because Paris just got Frozen Land. Hong Kong got a Frozen Land. and there's just this new stuff happening at all these other parks. But Disney World and Disneyland are just basically kind of left hanging. And Disney World is where you need to worry because that's like your big money maker. A lot of people come in for that because it's huge. And they're going to go up against Epic Universe in Orlando, which is going to open up next year. And it's bringing in Mario and Donkey Kong.
And actually, weirdly enough, the thing I'm the most excited about is the Universal Monsters area. Like
It looks amazing.
I saw the mansion, and I'm like, oh my God, this could be a haunted mansion killer. I mean, it could be.
I still think it's funny. There was rumors they were talking about doing a Luigi's Mansion as a second phase, and I hope they do. Because speaking of which, we're going to take a side tangent for a minute. On the 10th was Mario Day.
Yes.
It was March 10th, Mario. And they announced that they are going to do a second Super Mario Brothers movie. They said that the team behind the first one with the directors are going to be returning. Illumination Studios in Paris that did the first film, they're already working on storyboards and set designs for new environments for the second film. And it's going to release in April of 2026, April 3rd, 2026 in most markets.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of a no-brainer, but I mean, that was one of the biggest movies ever for Universal. They did over $1 billion at the box office.
It was one of the big movies last year.
And it made, I mean, like everybody's eating Disney's lunch. I mean, this is animation. This is animation. This should be like if Disney is going to do one thing well, and that's what they're talking about in that white paper. If they're going to do one thing well, it needs to be animation. That is how the company started, and they need to be better at that than anybody else, and they're not. Netflix is even beating them.
Mm-hmm. They also announced that they're going to bring to the Switch the Paper Mario 1,000-Year Door on May 23rd. And they also said the Luigi's Mansion 2D, which was the Luigi's Mansion Dark Moon on DS, is coming in June 27th. So it's interesting, Luigi's Mansion, because there are rumors, again, it's just rumors, that they might be doing a secondary expansion after they open Epic Universe. And one of the rumored expansion projects was a Luigi's Mansion. I don't know if they're going to do that because they already have the dark ride with the Dark Universe, but
I don't know. It'd be pretty cool if they would mash it up with like shooting elements, kind of like Buzz Lightyear. I mean, look, we have Space Ranger Spin and Toy Story Mania at Disney World. So like they could, I mean, they could do, because they're in separate areas.
That's true. That's true. They're different. Yeah, because
they're different enough.
It's the same park, though. I don't know, but that is a good point. Other news, shocker, Disney's expensive.
What?
Apparently, according to allears.net, Walt Disney World prices have increased 91% over the last 10 years.
91%?
Yeah.
91%.
All Ears went out and compared some things, and they said, like, park tickets, for example. In 2014, a base adult park ticket, not Hopper, was $90, and that was a low, and the highest price was $99.
Yeah.
For kids, the lowest price was $84, and the highest price was $93. Of course, kids are 9 years old and under. And then in 2025, because they're telling you the prices for next year, $119 is the lowest price, and $189 is the highest price for adults. 32.22% increase on the base price and the low price, and a 90.91% increase on the highest price tickets. So almost, double the cost.
I remember people being outraged when ticket prices averaged over $100. They're like, that is insane. I remember going to Disneyland when I was a kid in the early 90s. It was like $25.
Well, it gets better. The kids' tickets for 2025 is $114 for the lowest, and the highest, which I'm assuming the highest is probably park hoppers and stuff too, $184. And that's a 35.71% increase on the base price and a 97.85% increase on the highest price. Almost an 100% increase in 10 years.
Yeah, and that's what gets me. Like, what are they doing with that money? Because, well, here's the thing, and they talked about this, like the parks bankroll other divisions of
70%,
Disney.
70%, yes.
But they're not reinvesting that money into the parks. They're basically just putting duct tape on things that are broken, or they're reskinning stuff. I mean, we got a couple of new coasters, but like nothing to the level that Universal's doing, and that's what people expect. Oh, no, wait, no, they're getting it. They're just getting it overseas.
Yeah, they're supposed to get it here someday because there's $60 billion. We promised $60 billion. We mentioned $60 billion. But what we were hearing about at least with Walt Disney World is like, we're going to get 3 new endings or locations on the Star Tours thing next year. No, it's not next year. Next month, April 5th. They're going to do 3 new Star Tours locations involving Disney Plus shows.
Yeah.
Synergy. They're going to do, they're bringing back the Little Mermaid Theater. They're reskinning Splash Mountain. They're going to reskin, at some point, Test Track. And they said Country Bear Jamboree is getting a new IP show and all that. That's what we're hearing about. Zootopia is coming, but it's going to be a Tree of Life projection show. That kind of stuff.
Yeah, so, I mean, that's what I'm talking about. Like, you see what they're doing in Shanghai, and you see how it looks impressive. I mean, Zootopia looks cool. But that was rumored to be coming to Animal Kingdom, and then that just never happened. Instead, they're going to do like the weird Encanto Indiana Jones reskin mashup.
Yeah, if they do it, that's just blue sky right now. It's just here's art, but we never said anything else about it. So those are that. They're talking about parking went up like 76.47% over 10 years. Food has been increased. Now the thing about food, I'll give them in the fact that food prices in general have increased exponentially. So I'm not going to ding them too much on like entrees. However, their sides where they were averaging for like a little fry was in 2024. The fry was, in 2013, it was $2.79.
Right.
And now it's $5.
Well, I mean, they want $5 or $6 for a Coke.
Well, they mentioned that down here. Drinks, the drinks are going up. But again, in this case, I'm going to give you this one because the food prices, and I know for soda especially, have gone up a massive amount. Soda just in the last like few months, doubled. Yeah, so I'm crazy. Not gonna. This one I'm gonna give them because they might have to. I think that one we're being fair.
It's a supply chain shortage of caramel coloring and water.
Yeah. I just think in that one, I'll give them because food prices have increased. Now, I talk about hotels. They said the Contemporary, a one-night stay would have cost you $732 in 2014, and that same stay would be $960.
Jeez.
And I think if you go out to the Polynesian, it's more than that. Boardwalks up there.
I can't believe how much. I mean, because we talked about Pop Century earlier and how bland it is, and I just happened to look on my phone. The price for the Pop Century goes up to $400 a night, $475 a night. It's like it starts at like 150, 175, and goes up to like $475.
That's nuts. Well, speaking of the biggest gouge, I think to me, one of the biggest gouges there is that the parties. Okay, we got Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party and Mickey's Very Merry Christmas Party. Now, we don't have the prices for this year yet because they haven't done that. They should be doing it soon. They usually do it sometime around now, at least for Halloween. But they're talking about how the prices have gone up on these. And I can tell you, it has been ridiculous on the parties. And you're not getting anything more, so there's no reason for it. But they said in 2014, Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween, which is my favorite, was $62 for an adult and $57 for a child. Okay, 2014. Yeah. And last year, the tickets started. That was flat for that. The tickets now are date based, like everything else. 2023, adult tickets started at $109 and went up to $199 depending on the date. Child's tickets started at $99 but ran up to $189 on some dates. For adults, it's a 75.81% increase. For kids, it's 73.68% increase.
I remember when the Halloween party was like $75-$80.
Well, they're saying in 2014 it was $62 for adults.
Because we actually $57
for children.
I remember
no matter which night you went.
Yeah. But I remember being shocked that it was $75 because really it wasn't. And back then it wasn't as crowded either. Like you'd pay your $60-$70 or whatever. You go to the Halloween party. It was worth it because you got to actually ride stuff. There wasn't a very long line and the theming and everything was really cool. But like there wasn't nearly as many people in the park. And the last time we went to the Halloween party, it was a couple of years ago. I remember being shocked at the fact that there was virtually no difference between a regular day at the Magic Kingdom and
I'd argue
the Halloween
it was
party.
More busy at the Halloween party because
people started filtering in
because a lot of people, I think if you're going to go to the theme parks, you want to go to Magic Kingdom, one of the best days to go is the day they have one of these parties because yes, they close the theme park early, But people avoid that theme park because they close it early. So the crowds are a lot lower on those days usually. And then what happens is, as soon as the party comes in, they're letting, it used to be that you could count on the fact that it would be a lower crowd because it was cost prohibitive and limited. And now they just shove as many people as they can in there. And it's insane. And people are paying it, so they're going to keep raising prices.
Well, that's the thing. Like, look, people want to complain about the price at Disney. Nobody is forcing you to pay those prices, and they will continue to jack the rates up in accordance to what people are willing to pay, and people will pay. If somebody said tomorrow, hey, the cost of admission to Disney is the floor is $400 a day, for a ticket, people will pay it, and they'll be like, more magic for me, I guess.
Well, when we're talking about the tickets and we're saying about the prices up here, that doesn't even include Genie Plus. Like,
no.
These are the increases in tickets. Lowest being 119, the highest being 189 for an adult. And then on top of that, you want to actually go on attractions? You're supposed to pay Genie Plus. The problem is, I'm seeing lines. Like right now, it's spring break, so you can imagine how insane it is down there. I'm seeing pictures of the Lightning Lane, the Genie Plus lines, and they are like stretched way back. Like they are extremely long. And it's going to be impossible for people waiting in standby because when they used to do Fast Pass Plus, like they would let a lot more people through. Like they might let, like, say 50 Fast Pass Plus people through for every 20 or 30, we'll say 20, regular standby line. Well, now with Genie Plus, they'll let like 80 Genie Plus people through for every like 10 standby line. I don't know the exact numbers, but the percentages are a lot worse if you're in a standby line with the Genie Plus than it was with Fast Pass. And we used to watch them count for Fast Pass, and it's worse now because they let way more Genie Plus people go through because they're paying. And like we talked about this last time, at Universal, you pay more, but most people don't use it because it's so expensive. So it's actually worth the upcharge.
Yeah.
Here, they're making it so they keep raising the ceiling on the price, but people are buying it, it sells out, and then the lines are horrible. You're just paying to stand in line longer.
Yeah.
And that's on top of the already inflated ticket prices that can run up to 97.85% increase in the last 10 years. And then on top of it, Genie Plus. And they made it so convoluted. That's something Jay Rasulo brought up, is with Genie Plus, it's so complicated to pay for it. People are turning away because it's confusing. But there is good news. They got rid of the park pass reservations, and they're also making dining reservations easier to get. Now, if you go to the app, it used to be it was such a pain in the butt. I had to not say a bad word.
Tushy.
Pain in the tushy. Normally, I'd say a different word. If you book dining reservations, you had to pick the day, pick like the lunch, dinner, what time, breakfast, what time, or a time frame. And then you have to keep inputting all the information over and over again until you found a slot that you could actually book, right? If there was any available. But now they're letting you do this where you can check it at a week at a time, or 10 days at a time. So here they have March 11th through March 16th as an example. This is from mickeyblog.com. And they actually said you could do 10 days, and then it'll show you what's available on those dates for your party size. And if there are times, and then you can select it from that. Like on Monday, there's this time. On Tuesday, there's that time. And then you're able to see a wider picture of your whole vacation. If you're there for 5 days, you could look at all 5 days, and then you can plan which park you're going to, depending on when you can get dining reservations that you want. So that there's at least good news that makes it easier.
Yeah, I remember having to get up at we'd check the phone at 6 o'clock in the morning to see if there were any dates available.
Yeah, I mean, you could book out 90 days ahead, but they're usually gone immediately.
I mean, that was one thing that came up in that, during that conversation with Rasulo and Peltz, is he's like, you used to be able to just show up at the park and just go do your day at the park. You didn't have to plan everything. And they're like, all the fun, all the spontaneity has been taken out of the parks because of all the planning that needs to be done. It
is. It's just, I mean, Genie Plus really has made it, I think, a lot more difficult and expensive. And then honestly, I'd say it wasn't worth it, but if you're in a standby line, you're going to be waiting even longer. It's just crazy. So that is one piece of good news. Another thing I was going to mention is there's a new Dole Whip flight at Swirls in the Water, Disney Springs. This one is a fun new one. It has 3 different flavors. You're going to be able to get Dole Whip pineapple swirl with vanilla soft serve and garnished with pineapple. Or there's a pistachio soft serve with chocolate soft serve.
What?
Garnished with shamrock sprinkles.
Shamrock
They are little shamrocks. And a banana soft serve swirl, that's hard to say, with toasted marshmallow caramel sauce. So it's banana and marshmallow and caramel and little caramel crispy pearls, which sounds actually really good.
That sounds like they're going for like Bananas Foster or something.
Or, but yeah, banana split or something. Yeah,
that's the pistachio. I didn't even know that they made pistachio Dole Whip.
That's a soft serve. It's not really Dole Whip.
Oh, okay.
I think the Dole Whip is in the one with the pineapple, and then the banana soft serve.
The banana sounds good. I might do I don't know.
You get all three. Okay, so you can get all three treats if you go to Swirls on the Water. So if you're in Disney Springs, which is nice because Disney Springs you don't have to pay to get in. If you're happen to be at Disney Springs, you can check that out. I just thought a lot of people like Dole Whip, so I thought I'd mention it. And we're going to finish off our video with one more bit of news, and this might be good news to some people. If you like Spider-Man, Sony's going to re-release the live-action Spider-Man films to theaters. You're laughing.
Yeah, this is a makeup for Madam Web.
That's exactly what it is. Madam Web did absolutely horrible. Dakota Johnson's out there slamming it. Apparently people at Sony are not happy that she's out there slamming it. Not a good movie.
Yeah.
But if you want Spider-Man, you can still see Spider-Man.
I have to admit, it would be kind of cool to see the original Tobey Maguire Spider-Man on the big screen again.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I don't think we have any Cinemarks around here. It's going to be at Cinemark. I wish we did because our daughter would want to go see some of these. But they're going to do all of the different Spider-Man. So Spider-Man, the original, April 15th. Spider-Man 2, April 22nd. Spider-Man 3, April 29th. Those would be Tobey Maguire. The Amazing Spider-Man, May 6th. The Amazing Spider-Man 2, May 13th, which would have been Andrew Garfield. And then Spider-Man Homecoming, May 20th. Spider-Man Far From Home, May 27th. And Spider-Man No Way Home, June 3rd, which of course was Tom Holland. So pretty much every week you could go see a Spider-Man movie from April until June.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of cool if you want to do that. I mean, it is kind of cool to see them on the big screen again. Andrew Garfield needs another Amazing Spider-Man movie.
I agree. Justice for Andrew.
Yeah, he still looks the part. He was great in No Way Home. He was actually, I think he got a bigger reaction than Tobey Maguire did, which is saying something. But I'm like, well, why don't you go see the Amazing Spider-Man movies the first time? Because they didn't do as well as the Tobey Maguire movies.
I know. But there you go. If you wanted to see any of these in the big screen, you never did. I've seen, I think, all of these. We've seen all these in the theater, didn't we?
Yeah, I think so.
I think we saw.
I don't think we saw Amazing Spider-Man 2.
Okay. Everything but Amazing Spider-Man 2. Yeah. We actually saw it in the theater. Our daughter doesn't remember a lot of these because she wasn't around for some of them. But she really would like to see these. They're bringing this out ahead of their Kraven the Hunter, which I do not think Kraven is going to do that well. Sorry, I do not.
Oh, it's not going to.
I think they're trying to drum up interest. I think because the theaters have, the strikes last year have definitely put, a lot of films got pushed back, and so there's not as many offerings as there usually are. But there you go. If you want to check out Spider-Man and the Spider-Man movie you missed in the theater, then you can check those out if you're near a Cinemark. So there
you go. All right.
And that's everything I have for today.
Wow, that was a
lot of stuff. We're almost at 45 minutes.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Well, check out piratesandprincesses.net for more objective Disney and Universal news. We might talk more about Universal next week. That's the one thing I'm excited about. I'm really, I'll tell you the truth, I am not that excited about anything Disney's announced so far.
Not that I've heard so far. Oh, no, that's not true. Test Track with the World of Motion, I am intrigued.
Yeah.
Because I grew up with the World of Motion, so that makes me happy. But they haven't said anything else about it.
No, everything else I'm just kind of like, whatever. But Epic Universe, I'm super pumped for. So we'll have to find some more Universal news for next week. All right, we're going to wrap it up?
Yep.
All right, guys, please subscribe again wherever you found this podcast, and we will talk later.
Bye. Thanks again for listening. More news and videos are available on our website at www.piratesandprincesses.net. Our YouTube channel, Facebook, Instagram, X, and TikTok. If you like the show, please consider subscribing and leaving us a positive review on iTunes and other podcast platforms. This podcast is a production of Clownfish Studios LLC and WebReef Media, and we'll see you next time.